And
Okay.
we're live.
Hey,
Hello, hi everyone. I'm May.
Hi, I'm Marco.
I'm Alex.
Yep.
Okay.
Nate, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, inside food industry and catered by CP themselves, and we're going to talk about numbers, about pigs and animals, and China business, and well, inside the belly of the beast, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't work in CPF, CP Food, but this is something that
Okay.
Marco is very diligent in digging up these numbers. We have access to these numbers. So I just want to share with some of you
Yep,
more of an
yep,
overview.
yep. So yeah, last week we talked about like wanting to know more about the food industry in China. I
Okay.
dig out some numbers just to share with the audience. Apparently, we in China we consume in 2021 we consume 53 million tons of pork, right? And that's
Right.
about like 771 no 671 million pig was slaughtered every year. So with the population of 1.4 billions, I guess average Chinese consume half a pig every year. That's been the major diet in Chinese population. It's about 60% of all meats consumption. Other meat consumptions are beef. It's around like 7.8. Lamb, it's like 5.7. Chicken, about 27%. So majority is pork. Chinese diet, majority is pork. So pork
Yeah.
price become a very important elements of the CPI. It
Yes.
affects all the Chinese populations, inflations and whatnot.
Yeah. And you just mentioned that pork price actually contribute in CPI. Like if you take pork out of equation, then CPI in China would stay kind of stable,
Less than 2%.
less than 2%, which is like the magic number that the whole world wants to get there, right?
Exactly, exactly. But pork, it's a critical number in China. If you don't get the pork price control under, say, $20, 20 RMB per kilogram, yeah, inflation can be a real problem in China. But
Okay.
anyways, like, yeah, May, you act like you're not shocked that we slaughter in China. We slaughter 671 million pig every year, right?
Right. Some people, get freezed up when they're shocked. So I'm frozen. So so anyway, I see a lot of number of millions of pig, and the thing is, it's a fact. I eat food. I ate buffet, which is like unlimited food in one meal, and but I never really look into numbers, like how many animals were slaughtered to serve my purpose, to serve my goals, which is to eat. And I exercise. I started to, so I increased my protein intake. Means that I eat more pigs than ever, and I eat more of a lot of proteins, and I'm contributing into this economy. I mean, everybody does except vegan, right?
Yeah.
And we just the number, the reality is surprising to say the least, and to know this is what we're doing right now. But one part of me I feel shocked, but another part of me I feel like, it's good that the numbers come out, and I mean the numbers mean a lot of things for me. Morally, I feel stunned, and then environmentally I feel like, there are lots of things that's going to happen, feeding the pork, and greenhouse effects and all those things, and business wise I think CP has a mean business, hasn't he? Hasn't he? Like Kuntanin and all the families, just like CP, just get it right. So there are lots of things that the numbers say to us, and but I don't know. What do you think about these numbers? You've seen these numbers for a million times, I think.
Well, I'm sure from the company's point of view, they want this number to continue to grow. because, you know, that means we sell more meat, right? And that's whole, like for meat producer, that's a good thing. However, I think also at the same time, I mean, I think the world resources are getting more constrained, and you will have these food scare, and we're starting to see them now, right? Um, so yeah, I think sustainable food, it's going to be a big industry, and that's why many companies that are traditionally doing meats are going into these alternative protein source now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's always a game of supply and demand, and we're not here to create more demand. We just see certain places around the world that might actually be short on demand, and of course, being a competitive company, we will bid for those contracts. So I think it's a very natural thing. And again, I personally, I don't have anything really morally against meat eating, except for the fact that I remember in college once I had a noodle soup, like Chinese, like with like pickled cabbage and pork. And then afterwards, I you know how sometimes you finish eating a noodle and there's a lot of things left over, and I see all this pile of pork, most likely from different sources of pigs, like different pigs and stuff. And I looked at it almost as a mass grave. And so after that, I'm always very conscious. I'm a very visual person, so I'm always very conscious of, well, not wasting food and stuff. But lately, more and more, again, more because of health reasons and stuff. I don't find myself eating a lot of pigs. I mean, I enjoy my good like tasio here and there, but most of the time, I think my source is like chicken breast and also fish, just naturally because they're just lighter on me. So, and I'm also looking at more alternative proteins, and ever since then, I'm paying more attention to it, and then I actually found out that we actually in Thailand actually has a whole facility dedicated just to finding alternative protein.
Oh,
And so,
really?
yeah, it's you guys. I don't know in Thailand. I'm sure you guys heard of Meat Zero, right? Yeah, and
I mean, I've heard of in passing.
mhm. Yeah, so Meat Zero is something that we launched, I believe last year or a year and a half ago, and in Hong Kong they recently just launched. They decided to launch. The second launch is going to be in Hong Kong, aside from Thailand. So this is something that we're looking towards more as a way of saying, okay, how can we then affect people's diets in the future? If people are starting to accept these alternative proteins, you know, then then we want to be at the forefront of that too. And because we also do have the capacity to do it, so we're doing it with them. But I mean, more and more I see people have like different sources of protein, because you can't just sit there and eat chicken breast all day. I'll die of boredom. So now, of course, I have my protein shakes. I always try to pump in as much protein as possible. But now I do protein shakes, um, fish, and chicken. That's pretty much how I do it right now. So,
Yeah. Actually,
yeah,
I can drink protein shakes. Not protein shakes, chicken shakes.
yeah.
The blended
Chicken shake.
chickens. I could do that
Oh,
all
really?
day. I have this supplier, and I told her, like, when I'm busy, I just like ask her to add everything I need:
Wow.
vegetables, fruits, and avocado for like oil and fat, and then rice. So she
Hmm.
can blend everything in bottles, and I just drink that.
Wow. Wow. So you have your entire meal in bottles. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I'm not food explorer, so to speak. So I mean, if it's served to me, I'll eat anything, like literally anything. But
Yeah.
if I have to do some work on my own, I'll call her up and I'll drink. I prefer
Yeah.
straw than spoon and fork.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's lovely. So she put all sorts of things like passion fruits or carrots or beetroots and things there just to make sure that I have enough nutrient to go on in a day.
Yeah.
And I know it's a crazy concept. People need to chew because we have teeth, but
Yeah.
sometimes I do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's super interesting. I mean, I agree with you. I think that there's some people who are real foodies out there, and I completely don't fault them. I mean, food is it's an art, and some people really enjoy pictures of them, and then like they're sitting there listening to the waiters describe like for a minute about what each dish is while you're sitting there staring at your food, starving. But I think I have an appreciation for cooking food, but more because I'm trying to get my son to eat. But then I'll usually cook for him, and then I'll just have like my gym food next to him,
Ah.
which is so I'm very
Well, but how does it taste? Chicken shake,
that chicken.
right?
Shake,
Do you
right?
put sugar or you put like salts with it?
Does it taste just like soup, or is it?
It's cold. Yeah, that's like for you Chinese. I mean, I'm half Chinese, 75% actually. When my sister get her DNA test, so people like hot food, right? And but this is cold, so we blend. But it doesn't get smelly like meaty smell. I don't know how she did it, but she did it nicely. And I tried, believe it or not, in 7-Eleven the CP chicken, and we use that CP chicken to blend with other things, and it smells nice too. So but so somehow people just get this meaty smell out of chicken, and then so then she just blend like vegetables and fruits in there, like pumpkin, so I get a carbohydrate, and then I get a little bit of sour of passion fruits or berries, and then so it got like blend all rounded flavor. Yeah, I know. Look at Alex's face. You don't think it's a good idea.
No, I can imagine it's more like a chilled soup or some sort. I mean,
It's like baby food.
Yeah.
It's like baby food, and the baby food's not bad. But the thing is, this is my trick. I like kids, so sometimes I bake my oats, like make my own granola. So I bake oats with light chocolate and light honey, just very light, but just baked oats. And I did that, and then some of the kids asked me like, "What are you eating? Can I try some?" And I know that kids won't like those flavors, like light sugar and nothing else but baked oats. So what I told them is, no, it's not that delicious. You're not gonna like it. It's all for me and none for you. And then these kids just get curious, and then they say like, "Can I try some?" And I said, "I have to warn you that this is adult food, and this is not made for you. It's my food. It's make me strong and healthy." And then they start to get super curious when I'm pushing them away. And then I said, "Okay, so this is the way you eat oats." I told the kids, said, "You tell me what are the flavors you discover in your mouth. You don't tell me your opinions, if it's delicious or not, I don't want to hear. But I want you to tell me how did I cook this and what are the flavors you discover in your mouth." So instead of them tap on the feelings of I like it or I don't like it, they start to think about the flavors. So they shift their attention to other things.
Yeah.
Instead of feelings, they start to use the sensory more and focus on the sensories. And at the end of the day, they say that that's not bad. Can I have some more?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just try that trick. What I
Yeah.
did one time was I think Hong Kong has this thing called army pork, which is produced by a friend, and it was actually very, very good. Their signature thing is a alternative protein spam, like the pork,
Ah,
which is actually a very stable diet in Hong Kong. A lot of people like to eat luncheon meat. But anyways, long story short, I was trying out his food, but I brought my son with me, and my son's a very picky eater. He doesn't eat vegetables at all. So I was sitting there, I was like literally just ordering everything on the menu, and I just have him like, try this. What do you think? And then he's either my son's either good or sucks, right?
Yeah.
But then afterwards I would be like, I'm walking in the street with him, like, did you realize all that is just not meat? And he almost threw up because he just doesn't understand. He didn't realize that, like, he wasn't focused on that. So
yeah, I think, yeah, so you shift your attention and the kids get tricked. So, yeah.
It's a
So
good
anyway,
trick. It's a good tip.
Good tip. Thank you. Anyway, back to pork business again. How come China pork increase? What is the factor? Is it like why? I mean, China is supposed to have a lot of pigs, right? And
Yeah.
one of the big producers, actually, China is supposed to export pork, from what I understand. How
Yeah, but
come?
it doesn't. It doesn't. I think. Okay, so number one, we just talk about how pork is such an important part of the Chinese diet. About 60% of all the meats that we consume in China, it's pork. And let me give you another number, right? So, in 2020, pork was in the all-time high price. It's 40 RMB per kilogram, and that due to the reason that the living standard is have been increased in China, and I guess like people who came out of poverty just love eating more meat. So pork was at an all-time high, and at that time, I guess China government realized that pork is such a big important makeup of the whole inflation. They try everything they can to suppress the pork price, and then it went back all the way down to 11 RMB per kilogram. So imagine from 40 to 11 per kilogram in the span of 1 year. Now the pork price is kind of stabilized in around 20 to 23 RMB per kilogram. But then this morning I heard that the Chinese government it's calling a meeting to all the major pork producer and have a talk with them and see how they can stabilize the pork price, not to increase any further. So I think China government wants to control the pork price under 19 RMB per kilogram. But this actually is a testimony of China as a country. It's now struggling in between this sort of market economy and a sort of planning control closed market economy. Because I think the Chinese government realized that you need to have some kind of market economy, let the market kind of dictate itself. But then at the same time, because pork is such a big item to Chinese who consume a lot of pork. And even though we slaughter so many porks and pigs in China, 671 million pigs per year, we still have the import pork from the U.S., from Canada, from Brazil, because we just don't we just love like Chinese just love eating pork.
I think cuisine is something important in Chinese culture too. Like you need to make sure that everybody's fed and everybody's full. My grandmother, who's Chinese, came from China. She always she passed, but she always asked me did you eat? Have you eaten? Do you, that's like the opening line, right? And I think it's the same in a lot of Asian cultures.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
and I would like to make an argument, and I'm sure someone's going to find some evidence to beat me down. But a lot of times, I think the Japanese has a very sophisticated culture where scarcity actually is turned into a virtue. Like they do everything very, very meticulous, very small. But they put all their efforts into it, but it's very small because in general, it's a small island. Things are scarce, so that scarcity and being withholding is actually becomes a virtue. Whereas in Chinese culture, everything is very abundant, fast, right? So for Chinese culture, if you're to come to my house and I'm going to, I don't give you everything I have, I don't throw everything at you. That's almost like I'm not giving you face, or it's shameful of me because I don't have enough resources. Even about 1995, I visited my aunt, my step aunt who's in Beijing, and she literally invited me and my sister for dinner, and she literally just bicycled across Beijing just to get one ingredient and bicycle to another place, and then the table is basically just like we can't ever imagine to finish it, but if for them it's a show of generosity too. So different
Wow.
cultures shows their respect differently.
So one day I should visit you at your place. It's gonna be like buffet.
It's gonna be chicken shake all the time. I'm gonna learn how to make chicken shake.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good trick.
Yeah.
What did you say, Marco?
Let me give you another set of numbers to just for you to digest a little bit more. So, the Chinese average salary, it's I mean for working class salary, it's well above 10,000 US dollars per year. However, 30% of the population is still making a lot less than 10,000 US dollars per year. Um, but for the bottom 30% of the population, um, when they eat, they have to spend most of their money buying food, right? So then, like pork price become extremely sensitive to them because, like Alex just said, right? In the Chinese culture, it doesn't matter what happened to your social status or economic status, you put food on the table.
Yeah.
And then pork is such an important item. They would rather not, I don't know, rather not uh, fill gas in the car, but buy pork on the table, right? So so yeah, this kind of shows that the Chinese economy, it's kind of driven by food, and then pork is such a big part of the food, and then, like, as a result, yeah, there's a lot of resources or investment that went into pork. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
can I relate a really quick story too? And I'm sorry, like this is not a very economic story, but again, it relates to how Chinese views protein. It's I remember well in Hong Kong, usually people when they eat, they have a bowl of rice next to you, like Thailand. They have a bowl of rice next to you, and in Hong Kong, the stuff, the protein, and then the vegetables, everything is called song, which means song fan, right?
yeah.
You do these things. You have rice, but then you have other things to flavor it with.
Mm.
Whereas in Shanghai, when I moved to Shanghai, um, I was it, I was eating in restaurants, and a lot of times you have to really like flag them down. Like, I want my rice now with my food, because usually they give it to you last.
Yeah.
And then I realized someone told me that it was because uh, meat is so viewed as such a luxury back then, because people are just grew up from being poor, that now they would much prefer to have meat instead.
Mm.
And rice is just for you, the very last, when you still don't feel full, and then you have some rice with it to kind of fill yourself up. But usually it's just like, no, meat, 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 meat. So before I went on my low carbs diet, I just sit there and just be like amazed, like, hey, I want my stuff with my rice. But usually I have to remind the waiter about 5 times before they're like, oh, really, you really want your rice and stuff.
Why do you want to why do you want to stuff your stomach with
Yeah,
stable and rice, something
yeah,
that is so not, like, expensive, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But I love carbs. I'm all for carbs. But as I age, I feel like carbs make me sleepy.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
so every time that I have a big day, no carbs. So I can go to Beijing, when I have my big days, because I'm not gonna eat carbs, right? So,
Yeah. Exactly. Well, let me finish my thought with just one final numbers that I found out. Right. So, we talked about the bottom 30% of the population. Let's talk about the sort of top 50% of the population, who actually most of them lives in the urban area. And then, as China grow, a lot of these urban population work very long hours, and then, when they go home, they have less time to cook. But because food is such a big culture in China, there is more and more of a need for ready to eat and ready to cook recipes, more so than than say the Western culture, right? The needs for like good food, like we just talked about, putting a lot of food on the table. So that's why I think like there's a vast kind of opportunity. Whoever can win this, like, ready to eat, ready to cook battle, I think will win the food battle in China, which is big in China.
yeah. So, yeah, I think, and CP won the battle, right?
No, we're not even winning. I
You're
think
not even winning.
we're not even
Okay,
winning. I
you
wouldn't say
know,
that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where coming from. CP runs
Yeah.
everything. So let talk about the story of the CPs not even winning. That's the part I want to hear, because CP wins is like all the mainstream story that I've heard from
Should we do
forever.
the disclaimer now?
I mean, I think the views that we're about to express obviously does not, because we don't work in CP food. So for us, we work in investments. So yeah, what are we about to say? Just mostly personal.
Just our
Okay.
personal view. It doesn't represent anything about the company's
Yeah.
view. Yeah.
Well, still, it doesn't represent anything, but I want to hear anyway.
But yeah, I will give my 2 cents first. I think what we're seeing, what CP has done in Thailand, it's our goal in China, but we haven't really gotten to that goal yet. Because I mean, as you can imagine, China, it's a lot more complicated, because I mean, there's Beijing food, there's Shanghainese food, there's Cantonese food. Of course, like, in Thailand, there's Pad Thai, there's like
Yeah.
Middle Thailand, and Phuc Nhuo, and there are all
Yeah.
kinds of different food. But China is so much bigger, and there are all kinds of different uh, uh, sub system of food, and then we're trying to attack that problem, and it's very complicated.
We're talking about the in context of ready-made meals.
Yeah,
Right?
ready-made meals. So we're not by any means, like, winning the battle, in my view. But I think Thailand's success has given us a lot of confidence that we can do it if we,
Yeah.
continue to work hard on that direction.
I think.
And one more thing, it's the logistics. It's also very challenging, because we have these sort of factories concentrated in certain areas of the country, but then they have to provide products to very far apart, like in the very far distance. So like cold chain and logistic becoming another challenge, and we're constantly trying to innovate ourselves as a company to try to make it better, and a lot of the resources investment goes into that.
Yeah. When I worked in Lotus, there we there's a lesson we found out in Lotus is that we try to attack the entire country at once. Not attack the entire country,
Yeah.
but like expand the entire country at once in the early 2000s. And later on, we realized that it's more efficient to actually pick your battles and see. I want to be the king of Guangzhou, or I want to do it in Shanghai, or whatever. And so in CP, people outside of China just still has to grasp that China is just, each part of the country is such so large and so diverse that each part of the country is its own kingdom itself. And basically, so in terms of winning China, it's very, very difficult for a foreign firm, especially in food, because there's a lot of things you have to consider with logistics. Again, like, with being able to ship thing there and still be like, not rot and all that stuff, long expiration date, and all that for the entire country is going to be very hard. So I think we just have to, one of our strategies is basically just to focus on a couple of key areas first.
Yeah.
Yeah, pick your battle. I think that's a good lesson for any business that people want to do. I mean, I can't imagine one has enough resources to go all over the places all at once. But if you're big enough, you sometimes can feel eager. But I think that's a good lesson for everybody who's listening.
That's why digital is actually very, 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 very big in China, because everything could just go at once. It's
Yeah. And I saw this is like, it's almost a joke, but it's real. Like, everybody in China, live and selling things on the live channel is super popular.
yeah.
So you see a panel filled with mobile phones and a camera pointing at one seller, and she probably have like 200 channels and like 200 mobile phones on the wall pointing at her, and then she start to sell one thing to 200 channels and probably tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we have okay, I think Marco knows more about Weiya. This
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's
There's,
very
this-
famous.
this live seller.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about it? Like, I think
Yeah,
you're
we
more
ran
interested
into Raya like about a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
we had an opportunity to work with her, and I didn't know anything about direct sales and how powerful it was until our colleagues started telling us about it. And then I went online and looked at her channel. Like she literally was so like some Tibetan little stone, uh, and in like 10 seconds, like she was sold out like 2,000 pieces in 10 seconds. Like she would literally say something about that, and then like okay, and then she has this like sort of famous like getting ready to sell kind of lines like okay, 5 4 3 2 1, and then boom, and then it was gone, because everybody
Yeah.
literally has time to get ready on the phone, and they almost do it like a game.
Yeah. They almost like
Yeah.
hit the
Yeah, I
buzzer.
think we have this one person in Thailand too. I don't know if we have time, but there are two sides to it. She's come from a very, very humble background, and then she became popular, became a star of selling. She's pretty as well, so she started to sell, and she started to put like jokes, and she's like it's like a show. So people went to her channel, listened to her show, and then she make so that's a like good fun talk. Then she would sell things, and then she would describe things in a way that is hilarious, like, "Ooh, this perfume is for the girl who has long hair and slightly wavy, and this is the purpose of." I mean, she all made this thing up, but it's fun to hear. And she do the random box. Give me 10,000 baht. Give me 100,000 baht, which is a lot of money, like 20,000 RMB, for one box, and I'm going to put random things in there.
Okay.
And the box is sold out,
Yeah.
just like that.
Blind box.
Yeah, and she was so successful that she has big warehouses, like big, many warehouses. And she always live in warehouse to show how many things she does. But she starts from the seller, street seller, simple, to become a B2B and B2C, one of the biggest one. So she controls the price. So you start to see the progression of a person, and this is a very interesting topic because she start to buy like a little chunk, and then she start to sell, and then she start to do business to business. So she buy from wholesalers, and then she cut down all the prices. So it puts strains in a way. It puts strains on sellers, other sellers, because nobody can beat her price. And then when you hit that economy of scale, I think CP knows that all by heart. When you hit this economy of scale, you start to get bigger. But people love her for it because she made jokes and she was fun and she was pretty. So it is interesting to see the progression. And then a lot of people admire her. This is a funny thing. A lot of people admire her and feel like CP is bad for being monopoly or like run a lot of business. But in fact, people always gear towards getting bigger and economy of scale, and this is what people are doing.
Yeah. But I think I can share some numbers with you guys next week on this direct sales economy. I think for the case of Weya, right, like her sort of return rate is extremely high.
Yeah.
Like 30% of the orders will return back to the seller at the end of say one day. So people do it almost like as a game. They're just trying to get the quota, but then they don't necessarily want the product.
Yeah, they almost throw it in a basket, and then later on, walking around the supermarket, you throw everything in there, and when you look at it, like, do I really need this? And start putting it back.
Yeah.
But I'll share some numbers. I think there's some very hidden kind of traps with this direct sales economy in China.
And Weya, by the way, it didn't work out with us. Like she wants to hammer down on price so much, and we finally made a big order from our factory, and later on she goes, nah, we don't want to do it with you.
Yeah, it's
wow.
really there's a lot of like misunderstanding with the direct sales economy in China. I couldn't say much.
And in
about
Thailand too. And, we can do this topic next time. It's very interesting, and I think, I think it's worth talking. And everybody experience direct sales. At least for myself, I buy things over Facebook a lot of the times.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
cool.
All right, so maybe that's it for this week. We will continue next week with another topic: direct sales in China.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, great. Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Second.